Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over 5 things or 5 more things that you might not be lubricating that you probably should be. Alright, so this one I think could be potentially the most critical, although none of these are in any particular order. But this one was suggested by a viewer, and it was wheel bearings on a trailer. So this could probably go for any and all wheel bearings, but I guess I will be specific about trailer wheel bearings because I just recently did mine within the last few months. It's a pretty easy job. It's not as complex as you think it might be. There's a link in the description below of a video that shows you how to do it. If you have a trailer and you've had it for any amount of time where it's older, you may want to consider going in and cleaning the grease all out and replacing it with new grease. Sometimes trailers will have little bearing buddies on them. They're little greasable dust caps for the bearings, and you think you just shoot some grease in there and call it good, which that probably is better than nothing. But if it's been a long time, it's probably best that you take that whole wheel assembly apart and clean the bearings out, clean the old grease out, and then repack it with new grease. I do have a wheel bearing grease packer that I'll have in the link in the description below. This is an Amazon affiliate link. These products will all give me a small commission if you purchase them off of Amazon. Just be aware of that. It really does help support the channel though, so I would appreciate it if you were going to buy something, if you use those links. So anyway guys, that's number 1. Go ahead, check out your wheel bearings, repack those bearings with grease. It's only a couple-hour job if you do it pretty quick and have the right tools. Again, check out my video in the description below if you want to see how to do that. Alright, so number 2 is going to be your vehicle. On a lot of trucks, I think most of these things these days, they try to make maintenance free, but I have no idea the models and the makes and everything. But there are some out there, and you could be driving one, where you need to add a little bit of grease to your ball joints on your front end, other steering components, potentially your drive shaft, your U-joints on your drive shaft. Go ahead, look at those things. I don't have any footage of me working on them because my truck doesn't. My truck has all maintenance-free parts on it. I did find one grease zerk on the drive line and I added a little bit of grease to it, but I don't know how bad it needed it. So it's a very simple one to do and also very important, as pretty much lubrication and all these things is important. So go look at your vehicle, see if you can find any grease joints on it. Like I said, big one's front end parts. The other one is U-joints and drive lines. Check those all out, see if you could add some grease to anything. Alright, so number 3 is also quite simple, and it is quite a variety of things. Basically, I'm just talking about jack. 2 types of jacks that I have that do take grease is this floor jack, and I recently greased it. I'll just add a couple more just for an example, but I do have this little grease zerk here on the main pin that runs through the main arm. I don't know the terminology of all the different components of a floor jack, but I did just add a little bit of grease in there. It took it through the little zerk. But this one is a really simple one to just quickly throw some grease into if you've got your grease gun handy. Alright, so the second type of jack I'll talk about is a trailer jack. Both on my dump trailer and one of the old utility trailers I used to have. Right where you spin the handle, where I believe there's probably Acme threads somewhere there within the jack assembly that are going to need a little bit of grease. There are some grease zerks up near the top, near that handle. If you go ahead and just take your grease gun, hook it up to those grease zerks, and pump a little bit of grease in there. It'll definitely allow that trailer to lower and raise a little bit easier, and you might just make that jack last a little bit longer. Basically, if there's a grease zerk on something, the idea I'm trying to give you here is go ahead and throw some on it. Maybe you just haven't realized that there is, or maybe you just haven't thought about it or thought it was important. It might be beneficial to you to just go ahead and throw some grease in there. If you see a zerk on one of your jacks, go ahead and throw some grease in there. What could it hurt? Alright guys, here's another fairly simple one, and it is just lubricating locks. So when you lubricate locks, you're going to want to use a graphite. I have 2 different types of graphite lubricants here. This is just a powder graphite that you that kind of puffs out when you squeeze the bottle. And then there's this Blaster brand of industrial graphite. And they say it's a dry lubricant. I don't actually like it. I bought it and I'm not a big fan of it because, as you can see here, it kind of paints stuff black a little bit. It does wipe away, but it's kind of messy. It's not as clean as this stuff in my opinion. So just some regular powder graphite lubricant. You know, you can do something real simple like just add a little bit to where you insert the key in your lock. But yeah, if your locks get a little bit sticky, throw some lubricant in there. Maybe you want to make it a regular maintenance item. But yeah, graphite's the best stuff to use for locks, and if your locks are getting a little bit sticky, throw some in there. It'll help loosen them up, help them work a little bit better. Alright guys, so our 5th and final thing to make sure you lubricate is air tools. This one also comes from a viewer comment, Jeremy Huff. He's been a viewer of the channel for a long time. Appreciate his comment and mentioning this. I think this is a big one. I'm not sure how I didn't mention it on the previous video. This is just a Cobalt 3/8 inch air impact, and this is just some cheap Campbell Hausfeld air tool oil. So most of your air tools will tell you where to put some oil, but basically I think the vast majority of them, at least all of mine, pretty much just want you to put a little bit of oil there in the air inlet, throw it in there, and then go to work with it, and that oil will get dispersed around to the moving parts inside and keep everything nice and lubricated for you. I'm sure this is completely unnecessary, but I just thought I'd mention it every once in a while. I'll just throw a little bit of oil in the inlet of the air chuck, even though, yes, it's just an air chuck and doesn't have a whole lot of moving parts. These are still some little valves in here, and I think it might be worth your time just throwing a couple drops in there once in a while. Probably not, but I thought I'd just throw it out there. So make sure you lubricate your air tools. Again, probably not the air chuck, but definitely impact wrenches, air drills, air ratchets, things like that. It's definitely good for them to have a little bit of lubrication every time you use it. I don't think you'd be hurting anything by throwing a few drops in there each time you connect it to a hose. So make sure to oil your air tools. It's getting pretty hot inside of the shipping container shop, so let's close it up real fast. These are just 5 simple things that you might not be lubricating that you should be lubricating. There will be links in the description to all the products that I talked about in this video, from the graphite to the air tool oil, a grease gun, and some grease tubes, things like that. Everything I talked about in this video, there will be a product link in the description below. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you in the next video.